Welcome to the Mosaic kickoff event. We'll be starting the meeting right at 4 o'clock. We see people entering the Zoom room right now, so welcome. I just wanted to let everybody know we'll be beginning the meeting in just a couple minutes. Good afternoon, everybody. We still have people joining the room, so we'll wait just a few more moments before we begin the meeting. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Mosaic Kickoff event. My name is Tim Parker, and I'm the president and CEO of the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin. The Community Foundation is a founding partner of Mosaic because our foundation's mission is to enhance the quality of North Central Wisconsin. I'm delighted to facilitate our meeting this afternoon. During this session, we will introduce you to Mosaic. We will explain what Mosaic is and how it formed. Then we will speak with three panelists who represent three different perspectives from our community. One panelist is a first-year college student who was raised in Wausau. As a community, we can be proud of the wonderful young adults that we are launching into this world. She is one of our shining stars. The second panelist is a dynamic professional who decided to move here less than a year ago and who now calls Wausau her home. Her joy and passion demonstrate how our community can attract world-class talent. And our third panelist is a human resources leader for one of our area's largest and most successful companies. Her national and global perspectives can provide insight to what it takes to remain competitive. Each of these panelists are a product of how wonderful this area is. Wausau is rich in history and known to be a community that people enjoy visiting and love living in. Everyone has a unique story and perspective. None of our personal comfort and success came without challenges and obstacles, though. Sharing them can help us understand each other better to make our area truly exceptional compared to any other community. Mosaic is a hub for community to come together to be a more welcoming and inclusive place. It exists to accelerate, coordinate, and amplify the good work happening in the Wausau area. So for today's meeting, some of the mechanics you may want to think about. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And we do have a question and answer session toward the end of the program where we will answer those questions, as many of them as we can. And as a facilitator, I'll try to respect your time and make sure that we stay on schedule. We have 1 hour for this first meeting, and we will capture all of your questions. But if you do have remaining questions, feel free to email them to mosaic@ywcawausau.org. Now, to begin the program, I would like to introduce you to Kathy Drengler. She retired in 2020 after a career of nearly 35 years with Greenheck Group. Her last role was Vice President of Human Resources. Kathy currently serves on the Board of Directors for the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin and the Monk Gardens Human Resources Committee. She's an active member of WAGO, which stands for Women Actively Enjoying the Great Outdoors, and is a volunteer chairperson of Mosaic. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I'm excited to share our Mosaic vision with all of you. Mosaic began in early 2020. And it was founded by a group of future-thinking business and community leaders. And they realized that if they worked together, they would have a greater impact to strengthen the welcoming and inclusive culture of North Central Wisconsin. The representatives of Mosaic and our founding partners represent these organizations. And the ones you see on the slide: Aspirus Health, Church Mutual Insurance, Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce, Greenheck Group, Leoki Woodson Art Museum, North Central Technical College, United Way of Marathon County, UWSP at Wausau, WIPS, the Wisconsin Institute of Public Policy and Service, and the YWCA of Wausau. We were also fortunate to get some startup funding from these partners: the B.A. and Esther Greenheck Foundation, the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, Dudley Foundation, and Church Mutual. Our founding partners and the group of them were aware that there were needs in our communities identified by recent events, the Life Report, and other sources. And they knew that changing demographics of our country and North Central Wisconsin would impact our communities and our workforce. Following are just some relevant statistics from the 2020 census and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For the first time since 1790, the US saw a 2.6% decrease in the white population. Marathon County's population has slowed to a near standstill and continues to age and leave the workforce. Marathon County is also projected to become more diverse over the next 10 years. Currently, Marathon County unemployment rate is only 3.1%, which is well below the national average. And a recent study done locally determined that there are not enough people in Marathon County to fill the current open positions. In addition to us looking inward and surveying our community and the challenges that our community represents or has, we also looked outside. We looked at all groups across the state and other groups around the nation and other communities and found out what they were doing. And what we discovered were some best practices. We were able to get some resources that will be effective in us helping all of you through Mosaic. And we also discovered a lot of learnings on what they did that worked well and ideas and things that we don't want to repeat. So all of us believes that a vibrant community must grow and retain our population and our workforce. And we believe that this requires inviting everyone to our community, regardless of their differences, and ensuring that they feel welcomed and supported. Our communities must attract and retain our unfair share of the best people in order to thrive. That is the foundation of Mosaic. One of the first things we did is wrote a vision statement, and our vision for Mosaic is: Mosaic will be successful when Marathon County and North Central Wisconsin become recognized as a place where individuals choose to live and work because differences are embraced, individuals feel connected, valued, and supported, and they have a sense of belonging. Once we had a vision statement, we got to work, and we were able to get YWCA to agree to serve as Mosaic's operating organization. Then we brought together a steering committee of community leaders. Some of those were the founding partners that you saw early on and we talked about, and some additional community leaders and community members to support Mosaic. We also developed several action committees to get our work done. And then we got to work figuring out what was Mosaic going to look like and what was it going to offer to our members. Membership is free for individuals and organizations. And we offer the following benefits. We are an education organization, and Mosaic offers programs and events to increase understanding and provide action steps for you and your organization to put into practice. We intend to offer at least one program per month. And we also plan to have an annual event where we will celebrate success and outline the things that have been accomplished over the last year. We also will provide resources. Mosaic assists organizations to identify, define, and achieve goals related to inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Some examples of the resources that we will provide will be some assessment tools to help you and your organization assess where you're at and your diversity and inclusion initiatives. Best practice examples from our community, other communities. And we also are doing some research. We are currently conducting a research project to establish a community baseline. This research is being conducted and led by WIPS and funded by Church Mutual Insurance. We also provide networking. Mosaic offers ways to connect individuals and organizations to share and learn from each other through interaction at events and community and online conversations. We're in the process of developing a blog, so people will be able to share their ideas and ask questions through that medium. And impact. Mosaic provides members the opportunity to work together, strengthen the ability to achieve our shared vision. We believe that it's important to work together, and we know this is going to be hard work. It will require all of us to work together to be successful. We hope that you will all join us in this vision and this mission. And now I'm going to turn it back to Tim for the panel discussion.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Now I'd like to introduce you to our panelists, and then we will get right into the discussion. Amaya Bowman is a lifelong Wausau resident and graduate of Wausau East High School's class of 2021. During her junior and senior years of high school, she was a student representative on the Community Foundation's Distribution Committee. Currently, she is double majoring in political science and landscape and urban studies at UW-Madison. She's a true Wausau youth success story, and we can learn from her lived experiences and wisdom. Our second panelist is Carla Baker. She's from Louisiana and moved to Wausau in January of this year. She moved to our community to become the general manager at our community's hotel, the Jefferson Street Inn. Carla brings over 15 years of experience in the hospitality industry and even more years advocating for communities. Within her short time in Wausau, she now sits on various boards, including the Wausau Affordable Housing Regional Task Force, the City of Wausau's Business Improvement District Board, and WHLA, the Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association. And then third, Carrie Strobel. She serves as the Vice President of Human Resources for Greenheck Group, a manufacturing company headquartered here in central Wisconsin. Greenheck employs over 4,000 team members in 7 US states and in India and Mexico. As Greenheck Group's top HR leader, Carrie serves on the company's executive team and is responsible for the development and execution of talent strategies. As a reminder to the audience, you can use the Q&A function to ask questions that we will discuss during the Q&A period. So feel free to go ahead and ask questions when you have those. And let's dig right in and ask the first question. So Amaya, we're going to start with you. And what I would like you to do is tell me, what is your definition of inclusion?
So I think inclusion is something everyone kind of is aware of and knows. However, I think it's the process and practice of inclusion that a lot of people struggle with. So I thought I would just start off the panel discussion with just giving a blanket definition of inclusion so we're all on the same page. So inclusion is providing equal access to opportunities, especially to marginalized or otherwise excluded minorities. For me, growing up in Wausau, I think inclusion was something that I was always aware of. I mean, you're always told to include kids on the playground. You never left kids out of kickball. But I definitely think that inclusion is acknowledging diversity. And with diversity, I think we often think of diversity as just race. However, we also need to take a step back and acknowledge diversity as sex, gender identity or expression, age, disability, socioeconomic status, religious, political, other identities. And I think a lot of those often get left behind. And that's where that little barrier in inclusion is often left out in our community.
Great. Thank you, Amaya. And Carla, how about you? How would you define inclusion?
How are they going to hear my Southern twang if they can't hear my voice, right? First, I'd like to say thank you guys for having me to be a part of this conference and this group. For me, inclusion is me, all right? And let me explain. I am a Southern girl from Louisiana who decided to pack up like the Beverly Hillbillies and moved up to Wisconsin. And it just so happened to be the state that it's a hard state. So when I first moved here, it wasn't too, it wasn't hidden that there wasn't a lot of American of African descent here. And I was a little nervous, but I quickly realized that it is not about your skin tone or where you are economically. It's all about inserting yourself in the community. So although inclusion does exist, it is everyone's responsibility to make sure that they are a part of making sure that we keep moving forward in the positive way for someone like me to be able to be a part of a community like this. So for me, I am inclusion.
Great, good answer. How about you, Carrie? How would you define inclusion?
Thanks, Tim. Like Carla, I'm excited to be joining the conversation today, and I certainly appreciate being on the panel with these very smart and impressive women. So as far as inclusion goes, at GreenHack, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory committee. They're made up of a focused kind of cross-functional team of our across our different locations, diverse backgrounds, and they really help kind of steer us in the way of DE&I and moving our organization forward. Well, we actually asked them to define diversity, equity, and inclusion for us as an organization. So I'm going to cheat and use the definition that they came up with for us, and that is a culture that allows each person in our organization to feel welcomed, respected, supported, and valued as a GreenHack Group team member, so that individuals can contribute and thrive to their fullest potential. And so that's really what inclusion is. It's really about creating that space, whether it be in the workplace, in an organization, or in Carla's example, in the community. It's really where individuals can bring their talents and thrive. And I really appreciate you having a question specifically about inclusion, because we've been having a lot of conversations and feel it's important that inclusion is always part of the discussion, or really any strategy about diversity. As we focus on creating diverse teams, one of the things, you have to recognize that creating a diverse team is only the first step. And those team members need to feel like they have a voice and an opportunity to contribute themselves and contribute their talents. And without that, you're really never leveraging the full power of each of the individuals, and certainly not the team as a whole. So inclusion is definitely a critical component to all of our DE&I conversations.
Good. So what you just said is really interesting. You let the GreenHack team define what inclusion means for the company, and I think that's a reason that we're trying to start this conversation openly across the entire communities, so that we can talk about it, because we all have our own journey. We all have our own obstacles that we've had to climb, and obstacles in front of us that we'll continue to have to climb. And I thought it was interesting, Amaya, that you said, and I didn't know what these answers were ahead of time. So the word that struck me at first that you mentioned was the fact that inclusion is a process. And so maybe you could talk for another second or two about what that means to you.
Of course. So I think it's easy for all of us to say we're inclusive human beings. I mean, I came down to UW-Madison thinking I was a woman of color, part of the LGBT community, and I was going to be the most progressive woman here on campus. And I had some moments of culture shock where I had to take a step back and be educated and be open to different perspectives from different communities, from people who had just experienced things that I hadn't. And I think that process is realizing that I didn't know everything, but being susceptible and listening to people and hearing their stories and creating an inclusive space for not only yourself, but also the people around you is very, very, and it's a process. You're not gonna just know everything off the top of your head, but it's being open to learning those things.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And Carla, so it's really interesting, and we could talk a long time about it being a process, because I think life is a process for all of us, and as it changes, and as a community goes through its seasons, the community changes some too. But we have this rich heritage that has, been largely successful, and has also created a community that you're able to move into and thrive in, not without some challenges, of course. And you mentioned that you have to insert yourself into the definition of inclusion. And me being the white old guy on the call here, I've probably, coming into Wisconsin a year ago, wasn't as difficult for me in some ways, although people may not know that if my family was in the background here, that mine looks like the full melting pot of America. But Carla, maybe you can talk just another minute or two about inserting yourself and how we all have to insert ourselves into this discussion or thought process as we walk around the community and as we work in our workplaces and go to school to help everyone feel included. Those of us who maybe feel more included naturally just because of the current environment have to be aware, but also you have to be aware too, and how you enter a community and how you feel like you become embraced and feel welcomed.
So thank you, Tim. So one of the first things that I did let me go back. When I talk about inserting myself, I actually came to visit Wausau in November, and it's going to be a year and 2 weeks that I've actually knew what Wausau was. Like, Wausau, what's Wausau? And I did my research, and I knew exactly what I was what I could have possibly been faced with once I got here. So to say that my guards was not up, that's not true. My guards were definitely up, but I'm the type of person that I'm up for a challenge as well. And so it goes back to Amaya. I'll add on what she said is a process. So when I first moved here, one of the first things that I was doing, case in point, when we were talking about before, I made it my point to introduce myself. So I decided to make that bold courage move and introduce myself to all the business owners. I made sure that I went to the local stores, and I shopped at the local shops and boutiques. And you would be surprised that not everybody is afraid to have a conversation with you. Sometimes it's you carrying the weight of what you think they may perceive of you to be. And so when I started introducing myself and telling them that I was new to the area and letting them know that I'm here at Jefferson Street, and it just kind of opened up. And then this person would tell this person, and this person would tell this person. And before you know it, they're asking me to run for office. Whoa. But
that's great.
But it was my bold move to do that. So I would say that it's not always about the community not accepting you. Sometimes you have to accept the community that you're in or that you move into, because not everyone is thinking that, hey, they're not going to like me because of my personal life, or they're not going to like me because of my national origin. Sometimes you have to insert yourself and be like, hey, my name's Carla R. Baker. And it always get them with the R, like, who are you? My name's Bob. So that's how I was able to insert myself in the community, just by being bold and not assuming. Stop assuming.
So you've been able to do that, and you maybe have that personality that you're going to set that goal and you're going to go out there and do that. I've seen you eating alone on your birthday on the patio at back when, right?
Yeah,
you're not shy to do that, and some of us may not feel as natural to insert ourselves, whether we're the person who feels like we're the outsider or whether we're the person who's been here for our whole life. And so I think it's really interesting. It's great that you've been able to do that. It's great that this community has been able to welcome you and has been able to launch Amaya to the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a double major. That's what we have to continue to build on. And all of you have had your struggles, and you're getting through those partly because a community brought you here and gave you an opportunity, or because a community birthed you here and raised you to be able to be successful in these ways. So Carrie, you're running an HR organization for a large company that works internationally and has a large presence in several other states. When you're looking to hire people, I would assume that GreenHeck is doing well. I would assume that you have open positions that you would like to fill. Most of the companies in the community, especially manufacturing companies and some of the like service industry and things, have open positions. You see signs everywhere.
Yeah, careers at greenhack.com.
Right.
Putting that out there.
Right. So we don't have enough people in the county to fill all of the open positions. That means for us to
Exactly.
thrive and prosper, we have to bring people from other communities here. What is your biggest challenge in bringing somebody to Wausau?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Greenhack Group is one of the largest employers in the area, and we're not immune from the labor challenges that we see. Usually it's pretty industry specific. It's, manufacturing is obviously dealing with labor shortages, but so are a lot of other industries. And when we look at how successful Greenhack has been and successful for, in supporting this community as well, it's important for us to continue to grow. It's important for the community for us to continue to grow. But we absolutely rely on our ability to recruit and retain talented team members. That is the caveat to whether or not we're going to be able to continue to grow and continue to be successful. And that goes for Central Wisconsin. That goes, for all of our other locations as well. So we have to very proactively. So we used to call it just, post and pray. We would just say, hey, Greenhack's now hiring. We'd have a line and we would go through and hire the best candidates. Those were the good old days. Those days are gone and they're never to be seen again. So we have to go out and proactively seek talent and fill that talent pipeline. We have a lot of needs from manufacturing to front office. I mean, everything from sales to logistics. We have a lot of need for great talent. We employ amazing people. We need more of them. So we need to be able to draw on an entire potential workforce. We cannot allow for any groups to be left out or kind of carved out and not presented as potential workforce. And whether that be because there's any sort of conscious or unconscious decision-making, or because we haven't done the work to create an environment where people can thrive and share those talents, either with us or other employers in the community. One of the things that we talk about often is that when we're attracting talent, which of course is a whole new ballgame now, and we're all learning and adjusting on how we fight for that talent. But when we bring folks onto our campus and they're quote unquote interviewing Greenhack and we're interviewing them, we are absolutely selling this community as well. We need the community to kind of close the deal and bring families in and add the talent to our organization and add, kids to the schools and people to the restaurants. We need those folks to drive around Central Wisconsin and be like, hey, I could see my family living here. I could see us being an active part in this community and my kids actively participating in extracurriculars. Same goes for our current team members. We need them to feel at home here and grow roots, grow their family. Kids go to school, kids stay, statistically, they're going to come back if they go away for school. So it's a war on talent, and we need where we are to be a desirable place. And that really means people can see themselves here.
Great. Okay, before we move to the second question, we have the final zinger for Amaya. So you're down in Madison now, the big city of Madison, with all kinds of big ideas. You didn't realize maybe that you're not as liberal or not as out there as you thought you were. Are you going to come back? And what's it going to take to make sure when you graduate that you're working here and you're buying groceries in Wausau and you're paying taxes here and you have a good job that pays well?
I think if you would have asked me that in August, it would have been a flat out, no, I'm never coming back. I'm going to be honest. I have two siblings that are currently in the Wausau School District, and I think that's about the only reason why I took the time and I stopped and I thought about what are my issues with Wausau? You know what I mean? What are my issues with this community? I mean, this community helped me thrive. I mean, I'm here at Madison on a full tuition scholarship. I'm a Jackie Robinson scholar. This community gave me what I have right now. And I was like, so what is my issue with it? I stopped and I thought, and I saw a post about it. Obviously there's New York Times articles and blah, 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 blah. And I really thought, and I think at this moment right now, there just needs to be an effort of everyone willing to be inclusive. And I've definitely seen that over through social media. Obviously I'm not up there right now. of people taking the time and apologizing for actions that they did in the past, owning up to mistakes that they made, and showing a willingness to learn. I mean, people are stopping and listening and seeing that actions do have consequences. I mean, the way you treated people had consequences, but it's okay because they're not okay. That was a wrong term, but they're reflecting on it and they're apologizing. And I think WAS is now at a point where they're willing to take a step in the right direction. And I think as long as that progress continues, and I think Mosaic definitely can play a huge part in that, I definitely could see WASIP being my home in the future. And I definitely think a lot of my peers that I graduated with would share that same mindset.
Great. So it kind of circles back to your original comment that inclusivity is a process. Good. Well, let's move to question number 2. And Carrie, we're going to start with you on this question. The question is, from your perspective, why is Mosaic important?
Yeah, so, and I'm going to continue to talk from an employer's perspective. At Green Hat Group, we've seen the positive impact of diversity, equity, inclusion. We know that developing our teams to be more diverse makes us better problem solvers, more productive, more creative, more innovative. It makes better teams that produces better business results. That's good business, but it's also the right thing to do. And we mentioned our labor challenges. We mentioned what we need, from ourselves and from the community to keep growing here, but it's a lot of work. It's hard work, it's vulnerable work, it's work that very rarely has a clear, defined path. And it certainly can't be done by Green Hat alone or individual community members alone or a certain community organization alone. It's important for us as a community to have a DE&I strategy. It's important, as Amaya pointed out, for us as a community to continue to learn and seek to understand where we still have challenges and opportunities. It's important we draw people to our community, as I mentioned, as an employer. It's important that we're eager to learn more and and look at other communities and what they're doing and where they are in their journey and maybe what's going well for them. Basically, as a community, we need to create a collaborative organization where we can come together and do the hard work, be vulnerable, ask the questions, learn from mistakes. And I look and I'm excited to see Mosaic kind of step in and create that collaborative organization. It's not just business. It's not just community organizations. It's not just individuals. It's all of us coming together to take a more collaborative approach to diversity, equity, inclusion. And it's important for us, like I said, as an employer with Green Hat Group, but also our team members are members of this community. So it's important to us as individuals as well. So we're excited to be a part of it. We're excited to, be part of the conversation and support and see where this journey, can take us as a community.
Okay, let's move the same question to you, Amaya. From your perspective, why is Mosaic important?
I think there is an extremely high need right now for Mosaic. Obviously, I think inclusion is something that's always a work in progress, no matter what the community. But as Carrie said, I think there is definitely a need to just be vulnerable. And I think Mosaic right now is providing that source to be vulnerable. It's giving you a safe place to ask the questions that you might think are stupid to ask, or you just genuinely have no clue. And I think it's genuinely just providing that safe place. I mean, and it's willing to start that conversation and push forward and just educate. There's nothing wrong with learning. There's nothing wrong with accepting that we all don't know everything. And it's giving people who otherwise wouldn't have a voice. I mean, I'm sitting here. At age 12, I definitely did not think I was going to go to college. Definitely did not think that I would be at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, basically for free. I mean, and the Community Foundation and a lot of these people that I saw just in the participants and that as well I talked to that have started this collaboration gave me that platform and showed me confidence and put faith in me. And I mean, look at where I am. So I think it's just providing that community, and I think Mosaic definitely can provide that community that we need right now.
Great. And Carla, how would you answer the same question? Why is Mosaic important?
Well, Mosaic is important to me because I'm just going to read something off our website, okay? Mosaic builds connections and networks to engage businesses and individuals, organizations, and the public throughout Marathon County and surrounding area. I can personally speak on that or speak about that. One, we have a partnership with City Grill. It's been in partnership for years, but we're going through a couple of changes here, and I'm a new GM on the property, so it's like we're starting all over again. Two, we have a partnership with the Ugly Mug, where they're going to be servicing us for our breakfast and have an in-house coffee shop. I can go on and on and on. So to me, it's important because it definitely is in line with everything that, just not me as an individual, an individual, but what WASA represents to me. So when I speak of WASA now and JSI now, I'm also going to be speaking of Mosaic, because you guys are doing exactly what I'm doing as an individual. So now that I know that I have the support from you all, and we are all on the same page, then we are definitely going to be able to move forward with the visions of Mosaic. And we're definitely going to be able to move forward when it comes to the inclusion. And we haven't even talked about equity versus equality yet. If we are, then we're moving forward with that, because in our previous call, to me still, equity equates equality. So it's important to me to know that I'm not doing this alone. It's important to me to know that there are like-minded people out here. It's important to me to know that now, if I have questions or if I want to connect with another business, or businesses can connect with me and my hotel, our hotel, because it's the community hotel, then I don't have to like run around like I was before. It's right here. So that's why it's very important to me. It's more important than you guys realize, especially from someone on the outside moving in, and now is definitely on the inside. So when we have someone else move into the community, guess what? I can say, hey, wow, have you heard of Tim? Have you heard of Carrie, Amaya, Kathy, Luke? So many of us to support that person. So to sum it up, that's why Mosaic is important to me.
Yeah, I'm the moderator, but I might put an exclamation point on that a little bit, because I'm also new to the community in the last year. And what is really great about the community, and what that means is, if I'm speaking to you right now, people who've been in the community for a long time, you've attracted us because you've created a place that people like us want to be in, and you've kept us for a year. The honeymoon's probably over, but we're still in the marriage, right? And it's a spectacular place, and when we can do things together, then it's surprising what we can create in this size of a community. So we have, world-class arts organizations. We have excellent medical care. I mean, the number of beds we have in this hospital and the specialties that are there, it's surprising for a community that has actually this few people. We're servicing so many other counties with all these great things that people really come here because they need or because they enjoy it. The key is for us to talk about things. And when we sit down at the table together, we can create the most spectacular outdoor activities that everybody loves to participate in. And we can create spectacular human services organizations and a network of them that support everyone's needs. But say we look at the panel and we know that everyone has a different perspective and has a different maybe going on different paths or stages of life. If we can talk about our differences, then we can learn about the obstacles that all of us have had to get over our lifetime and that we see ahead, so that we can do this together. And that's the key to a prosperous and thriving communities, to participate, because then you have ownership. And then we can talk about issues openly. We can also celebrate all the great things that are already here and have been established already. So Carrie, maybe we could go to another question. And
Tim, we only prepared 2 questions.
well, okay, how about if I do part B of question number 2?
Okay, that's acceptable.
Okay, so can you think of any small steps we could take to try to make communities or workplaces more inclusive and welcoming? What are some quick hits that we could accomplish right away?
Yeah, I think, you know, we probably all mentioned this a little bit in our previous questions, but I think probably the most impactful thing that, you know, us within Green Hack Group, as we continue recognizing this as a journey, this is not a product launch. This is not all of those things, you know, as a manufacturing company, we're used to a certain pace and kind of a start and a finish. Small step, profound step, recognizing that this is a journey. I would say kind of another small but profound step is getting over the fact that you're going to be vulnerable. You're not going to have all of the answers. And you're going to ask a silly question. You're going to make a poor assumption. And that's okay. It's just about learning. It's hard for, you know, us as executives or leaders of an organization to agree to go onto a panel about something that we feel that we don't have, quote unquote, you know, we're not experts in. But I think it's a small but profound step to say, look, we don't have to be an expert to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, you know, that's enough.
That's great.
Okay,
Okay, Maya. Carla, you go ahead. Then I always like to leave the last singer for Maya.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead,
I just
Carla.
want to add on to what Carrie said. We don't have the experience on one hand, but we actually do have the experience when it comes to life. Life has given most of us the experience on how to be able to move forward when it comes to inclusion and the process, and also inserting. Sometimes, again, you just have to, at where we're at right now globally, not just personally, but in the workforce, this is something we've never seen before. So we can't, it's because of, Mosaic is there to help us when it comes to making some of these decisions. I feel like now that I'm a part of it, again, I'm not alone if I have some of those questions like you're being faced with, and I feel comfortable knowing that if I decide to reach out to any of you guys when it comes to particularly this area, because it hasn't been a year yet for me. My honeymoon is definitely over, guys. but feel comfortable to call me. And I would like to think that, or feel like it would be comfortable for me to call you guys now, if that makes sense.
Sure. Great. Thank you, Carla. Okay, Maya, can you think of a time being raised in Wausau where there was some kind of an obstacle that you faced, but the community helped you through that, and maybe you became better off because of it? Because I think it's important for Mosaic to know some of these things. And I know this was a putting you on the spot kind of question you weren't prepared for.
Oof, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think going through grade school, I had diagnosed ADHD. I was also an ESL, English second language. So both my parents were in the United States Army, so we were stationed in Landstuhl, Germany growing up. So German just kind of ended up being my first language, and it was kind of a little in between German and English for a little bit there. So when I came over, not only did I feel like I was at a disadvantage because there's maybe one of 5 other African-American students in the entire building at Grant Elementary, but I was also different in my academic advantages and my ability just to simply communicate with my peers. And that kind of mindset kind of stuck with me through middle school. I was at John Muir, and then I switched to Horseman, and then going to Wausau East, I was given kind of a fresh start, I guess, if we explain it like that, for the first time in ever, I felt like people weren't judging me off of that. People gave me kind of this welcoming hug. My English teacher, Mrs. Waller, she kind of changed my life. I wrote one article for the newspaper and she goes, "What are you doing in normal English?" You know what I mean? Like that simple question just completely changed my life. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not going anywhere. Why do I need to be in advanced English? From then on, I mean, I took all IB classes, graduated with multiple IB certificates. I'm now here. And I think having that welcoming embrace, not only just by that one teacher, but by Dr. Peck, even you, Tim, and the Community Foundation, giving me the opportunity to be a student representative for 2 years, really shaped me and felt like my skin color is not setting me apart. It's something that I can use to share my experience to move me forward. I mean, I think it was easy for me to be like, I'm different, I'm separate. I mean, when applying to colleges and universities, there was, should I apply to an HBCU? And I can't even explain why those mindsets went through my head. It was kind of like the systematic thing that was going through my brain that I couldn't even explain to you today. But I took a leap because I felt like I had a support system behind me. And I mean, I'm a scholarship recipient for one of the top Black excellence scholarship programs in the country. And so I think having that faith and having that community really pushed me forward. I guess I kind of summed up my entire education experience, but I think it's more than just one moment for me.
It's a process that involved people working together, you reaching out, and the community reaching around you. Great. Well, panelists, thank you so much. We may light up your screen again if one of these Q&A questions needs to go in your direction, but let's move on to the Q&A section of the talk here. We have about 10 minutes scheduled for that. So make sure that if you do have questions that we don't get answered, feel free to email maybe we can get, maybe somebody could like chat out the email address or something so that you can copy it. One question that came up in chat that I think we want to answer quickly is, why did the slide on the screen show the word equality and the words that were being spoken said equity? And I think Carla sort of answered that, but you know, this has been a process that this group has been going through. And Kathy, maybe you can give us a little bit of a history and tell us how that has transpired.
I will do that. But first, I wanted to say thank you to the great panelists. Boy, they shared some really insightful information. And I'm actually going to go back to a couple things they said. You know, Amaya said, we don't know everything. And I think that's very true with Mosaic. We didn't know everything. We don't know everything. We are learning along with the community and other communities. So we had a lot of, as Tim said, a lot of debate around the equity versus equality. And Carla commented that, you know, she sees them as one and the same, and they're equal. So we, again, debated it. Our steering committee talked about it. We talked about the fact that we need more education around the differences between the two in the community, which we plan to do. So ultimately, where we ended up is we do believe equity is the right word that we want to use, but it needs more education. And as Tim said, we went back and forth. So some of our documents started out with equality and went to equity. Ultimately, we're going to use the word equity and educate people about what the differences between the word or the similarities, as Carla said. You know, they are different words and they mean different things, but they're both really important words. So that's why there are some places where we didn't change everything, and some you may see both words being used interchangeably, but ultimately we do believe equity is what we want to strive for.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think that's part of what we want as this group assembles, is that the community helps us define what diversity and inclusion and all of these terms means, and what does it mean to this area and what doesn't need to mean. So we don't have all of those answers. Let me go to another question. Carrie, I'm going to throw this one in your direction because it says, Carrie, what is Greenheck doing to blind readers to potential biases on resumes or in applications?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we're, as I mentioned, on a journey to learn more and make sure that we're not unintentionally excluding potential great candidates and future team members. So we're doing a lot of things. Blind reviewing of the resumes is not as high on the list as some other things that we're doing, but we are reviewing our kind of application process and really focusing in on where we're going to, recruit, the schools that we're partnering with, the process that we use to screen applicants. So we have a series of assessments that we utilize and making sure that they're all still relevant. There's no disparate impact, that we have translation available when that's required. So we are kind of going through and taking a systematic view on how we're, screening applicants, because we have absolutely no desire, and certainly, it would not, we need to keep every single potential team member in the pipeline that has the skills and talents that will help us grow. So if we're doing that unknowingly or unconsciously, we're taking a fresh look, and that advisory council that I had mentioned is challenging us and walking us through those steps. So we haven't gotten to the blind resume review yet, but I'm sure it's on the list.
Good, thank you. Okay, Kathy, here's one I think you could answer for us. And I'll just read the question first. How will Mosaic interact with Toward One Wausau or Toward One Wisconsin? And I think maybe not everybody's aware of what Toward One is. So maybe when you answer this, you could also kind of tell what Toward One is.
Certainly. So Toward One is an organization, a statewide organization that provides education and an annual conference on the DE&I issues. And we've been involved. Mosaic has been working with Toward One. I was on the board to help set some of the curriculum for the last Toward One. And we did actually present at Toward One. And Toward One is facilitated by WIPS, and Eric Giordano is on our steering committee. So we are very closely associated with what's going on with Toward One and helping to drive Toward One, and also using the knowledge and the things that Toward One brings to the state and the community and bringing those back into Mosaic.
Great. Okay. And Kathy, while you still have your mic live, there's a suggestion or a question about maybe some of the events that we have planned. You mentioned that there will be monthly events of some sort, and some of those are training. I think you mentioned educational things quite a bit, but will those also include a way to bring people together for conversations, and a place where we can set aside differences and talk in a safe way about diversity and inclusion?
Yes, that is definitely part of what we would like to accomplish. We would like to have done more and do more live events where we can get together and network and do all of those things. Unfortunately, COVID has prevented us from being able to do that. But our intent is definitely to bring the community together, to do some focus group discussions, to do other kinds of things where different groups can present the challenges they're facing. We can have that honest dialogue, because we do think that honest dialogue is very important. We're starting with education because we do believe it's foundational, and that's what we need to have everybody on the same page in the terminology and the things we're talking about. But as we migrate, we definitely intend to have some of those types of conversations, not only through the events and the programming, but also through our blog and online opportunities to do that as well. And as Carla said, bringing people together so that we get to know each other, so that Carla can reach out to Carrie if she has a question, or Amaya can reach out to, and so we want to bring people both through a larger network, but also individually connecting people.
Okay, great. And we're running out of time. I promised I would be fairly disciplined to keep us on schedule. So Kathy, I think we'll try to wrap up the Q&A with maybe 2 questions combined. Not that that makes it faster, but who are the members of the steering committee? And I think you're going to be talking about how to get involved, but maybe you can answer some questions about the steering committee.
Yep, I can answer some questions about the steering committee. They are representatives from the organizations that you saw early on, as well as some additional individuals. And in order to keep this moving forward, I would just turn you over to our website. Our website does list all the steering committee members. We are still growing our steering committee and focusing on trying to make sure that our steering committee is inclusive of everybody in our community. So if you have a strong interest in being part of that or know somebody who would, we're still open to suggestions on our steering committee.
Okay, great. And you just used the word everybody. And there is a question here is, how is Mosaic connecting with the Hispanic community? This effort is for everyone. So maybe you can talk about that, but there was a specific question about the Hispanic community.
I can talk about that. Tony Gonzalez is on one of our committees and working with us. And so we're hoping that he will help us with that connection. I want to remind everybody that we are a new organization and we don't have all the answers yet. So we're still reaching out, trying to connect with every aspect of North Central Wisconsin. So that is still a work in progress. In fact, all the communities that we're working with is still a work in progress. We built a foundation and now we need to do the hard work, which is making all those connections.
Okay, thank you. I know I'm cutting that a little bit short, but I'm going to answer one more question here, and then from then make sure that you look in the chat to see the email address to be able to ask your questions. But there's a question here about diversity and inclusion, and from the sense of color of skin, ethnicity, LGBTQ, those types of aspects of diversity. But what about people with a disability? And that's why the acronym IDEA, IDEA, is there. It's inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility. So accessibility, as a definition comes out for accessibility, intentionally, the organization is considering, people with disabilities or different abilities that may be physical or emotional or intellectual or whatever, to give everybody an equal opportunity to thrive and prosper in our community. So with that, I know there are a couple other questions, and I apologize, we don't have time to answer those, but let's go ahead and have Kathy tell us for just a moment or two about how you can become a member and what the next event will be.
All right, thanks, Tim. So I think, Carla really said something really profound, and in order for us to be inclusive, it's everybody's responsibility. And so we really do want to encourage everyone to work together to achieve our vision. So we need all of you. We need all of you to raise your positive voices. We need all of you to join us. Reminder that membership is free. And there are 2 different options for membership. You can be an individual member or an organization member and share Mosaic with all of your organization. So there are a couple ways to join. There was a form that was sent to you and will be resent to you, a PDF form that you can fill out and send back through the email, or you can go to our website. Our website is mosaic/connect.org. So those are the different options that you can join. The other option, the other thing that we would like to encourage all of you is we hope to see you at some of our next events. We have 2 events that are taking place in the next couple months. On November 19th, we have a session called Do You Have 2020 Vision? An Intro to Unconscious Bias Training. And December 17th, we have a session called Recognizing and Appreciating Other Holidays. And it's really to help increase the awareness of different holidays and celebrations within our community, and help business and or other organizations to understand how to best celebrate those particular holidays and events. So again, encourage you all to go to our website if you have further information. We will try to also post some of the answers to questions we weren't able to get to so that we can answer all of your questions, but there is the ability to post or to send questions as well.
Great. Well, this wraps up the event for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for the first meeting for Mosaic. We hope that you'll consider joining Mosaic and have a great evening.